British royals have posed for a new formal photograph. There, she's the only splash of color in this picture. But take a close look at her tiara.
Please subscribe. It costs you nothing, but it truly means so much to me. When Queen Camilla demanded that Princess Catherine hand over her royal tiara, the request stunned everyone. But no one was more furious than Prince William. And what unfolded next sent shockwaves through the palace walls. The afternoon sun poured golden light into the blue drawing room, where Princess Catherine carefully arranged white roses in a crystal vase. The small ritual grounded her, something calm and steady in a week that had drained her strength. With William away on a 3-day tour, the palace felt hollow, the silence pressing in like a weight on her chest. Then came the sharp click of Queen Camilla's heels against the marble floor, precise, deliberate, impossible to ignore. Camilla entered with that polished smile, the kind that looked warm but felt rehearsed. Catherine sensed it instantly. This wasn't a casual visit. She had learned to recognize moments dressed in courtesy, but sharpened with intent. "Catherine, darling, I trust you don't mind me dropping in," Camilla said smoothly, settling into an antique armchair. "There is something rather important I wish to discuss with you privately." Catherine set down the roses and turned, composed but cautious. "Of course, Queen Camilla. What is it?" "It concerns the upcoming state dinner for the Japanese delegation," Camilla replied, her tone shifting, firmer now. "I have been considering the jewels, and your sapphire tiara would be absolutely perfect. Its deep blue would harmonize beautifully with my navy gown and send a subtle yet powerful message to our Japanese friends." The words hit hard. The George VI sapphire tiara was no ordinary jewel. It had been a wedding gift from the late queen, a symbol of trust, memory, and personal meaning. Letting it go, even for one night, felt like giving away a piece of herself. "I hadn't realized you intended to wear a tiara," Catherine answered carefully. "Perhaps your sapphire necklace and earrings might be more fitting." Camilla's smile tightened. "As queen, I must create the strongest impression. A tiara conveys the full majesty of the monarchy. Surely you understand the importance of presenting a united family front." United family front. It wasn't a suggestion. It was pressure wrapped in silk. Catherine hesitated, torn between loyalty to the crown and the promise she felt tied to those sapphires. She could still hear the late queen's gentle words. "These sapphires suit you, my dear. They reflect your beauty and kindness." The thought of them resting on another's head felt wrong, almost like breaking that quiet blessing. Camilla leaned in, her voice soft but certain. "The late queen would have approved of such symbolism. These jewels belong to the crown, not one individual. Catherine, you have always shown grace. It would mean a great deal, to me and to the crown." There it was. The crown. A force nearly impossible to defy without consequence. Catherine steadied herself. "If it is truly your wish, then the tiara will be at your disposal for the dinner." Camilla's eyes flickered with triumph. "How very thoughtful. I knew I could rely on your good sense." She rose gracefully, brushing Catherine's cheek with a light kiss. "Our guests will be most impressed." When the door closed, Catherine sank into a chair, the breath leaving her lungs. Alone, her composure cracked. The white roses that once calmed her now felt like symbols of how duty had overtaken sentiment. She adjusted a single bloom, as if fixing the arrangement could somehow steady her heart. But in a palace, nothing stays quiet. By evening, whispers slid through corridors, from drawing rooms to kitchens to stables. Within hours, everyone knew Queen Camilla had requested the George VI sapphire tiara, and Princess Catherine had agreed. Some claimed she resisted, others insisted she surrendered with grace. Yet one truth stayed firm. A line had been crossed, and the tension was no longer hidden. The tiara was leaving her hands, and the thought would not let her rest. In her private rooms, Catherine tried to focus on letters and royal paperwork, but her fingers kept drifting to the sapphire earrings at her ears. Their soft glow only reminded her of the tiara resting in its velvet case, waiting to be carried away. She could not shake the image of that case, sitting open and empty. Lady Susan stepped in quietly, holding a leather folder close to her chest. "Your Royal Highness," she said gently, "I have reviewed the tiara's insurance documentation. If you wish to reconsider, there may be requirements that offer you an honorable way forward." Catherine's head lifted fast, hope flashing across her face. "What kind of requirements?" 48 hours security clearance, Lady Susan explained. "Strict environmental transport conditions, and most crucial of all, written approval from Prince William for any transfer of personal wedding gifts." For the first time since giving in, Catherine felt the pressure in her chest ease. There was a path, small but real. But by the next day, that fragile hope collapsed. Queen Camilla's team moved swiftly, insurance waivers signed, security approvals granted, environmental rules satisfied. Every obstacle Catherine might have leaned on had already been cleared, as if the plan had been mapped out long before that polite visit in the drawing room. Her agreement, she realized, had never truly been a choice. It was simply the final nod on something already decided. The night of the Japanese state dinner arrived in full glittering force. The state dining room shimmered beneath towering chandeliers, crystal light scattering across gold-rimmed china and polished silver. Diplomats, ministers, and high society figures glided through the room in silk gowns and sharp tuxedos. It was a flawless stage of power and prestige. But Catherine was not there. Officially, it was called a scheduling conflict. The truth was far more personal. She could not stand in that room and watch her wedding gift crown another woman's head. Instead, she sat alone in her private sitting room, the glow of the television flickering across her face as the broadcast rolled on. She braced herself, and then it happened. Queen Camilla stepped beneath the chandeliers, the sapphire tiara blazing at her brow. The deep blue stones caught every flash of light, dazzling and impossible to ignore. It was breathtaking, exactly as intended. Commentators rushed to praise the choice, calling it magnificent, the perfect match for her navy gown. Catherine leaned forward, breath tight in her chest. Then came the blow. A commentator confidently credited the tiara to the late Queen Mother's collection. The error struck hard. Not only was her wedding gift displayed, but its story was being rewritten before the world. By morning, she knew the headlines would repeat that mistake until it became public memory. Something precious had shifted. It wasn't just the tiara, it was the meaning behind it. On screen, Camilla smiled, toasted, and charmed dignitaries, while the sapphires flashed like they belonged there all along. Lady Susan entered quietly with tea. "The cameras adore the sapphires," she offered softly. Catherine only nodded. Words failed her. To the world, the jewels symbolized royal grandeur. To Catherine, they carried memory. The late queen's gentle hands, the quiet blessing whispered on her wedding day. The tiara would return, yes, but something felt changed forever. Meanwhile, Prince William's journey home had been delayed by brutal weather. His helicopter diverted to Yorkshire, turning a simple return into an overnight setback. Exhausted but eager to see Catherine, he headed straight to her study upon arrival. He expected warmth. Instead, he found her seated at her desk, surrounded by papers. To anyone else, she looked perfectly composed. But after 14 years of marriage, William knew better. He saw it instantly. The tight grip on her pen, the stiff line of her shoulders, the quiet strain around her eyes. Something was wrong, and he could feel it. William knew those signs, the stillness, the tight breath, the way Catherine's eyes held back words too heavy to say out loud.
As making her tiara debut as the Princess of Wales.
"Darling, I missed you," he murmured, kissing her forehead before sitting beside her. "How was the Japanese state dinner? I caught some of it, though the connection was dreadful." Her pen stopped mid-sentence. The silence stretched just a second too long. "It went very well from what I understand," she replied carefully. "Very diplomatic, very successful." William frowned. Normally she would describe every detail, the guests, the speeches, the atmosphere. Tonight she sounded distant. "You didn't attend? I thought it was on your calendar." "I had other commitments," she said softly, eyes lowered. Camilla represented the family beautifully. The tiara looked lovely on her. The words hit him cold. "She wore your tiara?" he asked slowly, steel creeping into his voice. "The sapphire tiara?" Catherine's composure cracked. Her eyes shimmered despite her effort to stay calm. She had tried to carry it alone, but now it spilled out. "She asked to borrow it," Catherine whispered. "She insisted it was appropriate for the delegation. I could hardly refuse without seeming uncooperative." William stood abruptly, pacing toward the window, his hands clenched tight. That tiara was not just another jewel. It had been his grandmother's personal wedding gift to Catherine, chosen with care, given with meaning. He remembered being told the sapphires symbolized Catherine's steady spirit, her strength stepping into royal life. "She asked you to hand over your wedding present," he said through his teeth, "and paraded in it before foreign dignitaries?" "She framed it as duty," Catherine replied, voice weighed down. "She said the late queen would have wanted such treasures worn for state occasions, that the jewels belonged to the crown, not the individual." "That is manipulation, nothing less," William snapped, fury barely contained. "Where is it now?" "Still with Camilla's staff," Catherine admitted quietly. "They mentioned official portraits before it's returned." That detail cut deep. It was no longer about jewelry. It felt like loyalty being tested, like memory being handled carelessly. The rest of the afternoon, William made quiet calls to trusted staff who had served his family for decades. What he learned did not calm him, it sharpened him. Patricia Hartwell, the senior dresser, met him privately. Her voice trembled. "Your Royal Highness, this is not the first time. Over the past 18 months, there have been requests. Personal items of Princess Catherine's, always framed as duty." William's jaw tightened. "What sort of items?" "Accessories, certain pieces of clothing for appearances," she admitted. Each time, the princess complied, but afterward, she seemed diminished. The staff has noticed. The anger in William shifted into something colder, more focused. This was not one isolated incident. It was a pattern, a slow chipping away at Catherine's autonomy under the banner of unity. Later, Sir Edward Peyton confirmed the concern. "Department heads are uneasy," he confided. "The line between personal gifts and crown property is foundational. If it blurs, centuries of protocol weaken." Has anyone confronted the Queen directly? William asked, voice low but fierce. There have been efforts through proper channels, Sir Edward said carefully, but nothing has changed. The message was clear. The household felt powerless. Their loyalty to Catherine was strong, but authority rested elsewhere. That responsibility now sat squarely on William's shoulders. That evening, he placed a private call to his father, hoping, almost against instinct, that the king would step in before this went any further. The call with his father left William colder than before. Charles brushed off his concerns with tired detachment, insisting Camilla was simply fulfilling her role with dignity. Jewels are meant to be worn, not locked away, Charles said calmly. William's patience snapped. That tiara was Granny's wedding gift to Catherine, he argued. It wasn't meant to be paraded like a stage prop before foreign dignitaries. But Charles sighed. William, you're being dramatic. Family members have always shared jewelry. It's tradition. The line went dead without resolution. That familiar ache settled in William's chest again. If his father would not shield Catherine, then he would. Back in their apartment, he found Catherine pretending to read, her eyes barely moving across the page. He sat beside her and took her hands. I spoke with father. Alarm flickered in her expression. She urged him gently not to stir conflict. The tiara will be returned, she whispered. Let it go. But William's jaw tightened. This was no longer about jewels. It was about her dignity, her place, her worth. His grandmother had given that gift out of love, a symbol that Catherine belonged. Watching it handled like a prop felt wrong. Catherine's composure finally broke, tears spilling as he pulled her close. Rage and tenderness battled inside him. Tomorrow, he vowed quietly, I'll handle it. The next morning, William requested a private meeting with Queen Camilla. No aides, no witnesses. He chose the morning room at Clarence's house, her space, so there would be no claims of ambush. This wasn't petty drama, it was a reckoning. Camilla arrived on time, polished smile ready. It flickered when she saw William standing stiff and unyielding. William, how good to see you. How is Catherine? I appreciated her generosity with the tiara. It made such a splendid impression. Generosity. The word sparked like a match. He remained standing. Camilla, we need to discuss your treatment of my wife. What happened with the tiara was unacceptable. It will not happen again. Her smile thinned. I beg your pardon? I borrowed a piece of jewelry for an important occasion. Catherine agreed readily. There was no issue. Catherine felt she had no choice, William shot back. You turned her loyalty into pressure. That tiara wasn't just jewelry. It was my grandmother's wedding gift, chosen to symbolize her place in this family. Camilla's tone hardened. As queen, I have obligations. Presentation matters in diplomacy. The tiara served the crown. My wife has rights you've repeatedly ignored, William fired back. This isn't isolated. For months, you've leaned on her good nature, pushing her to give up what's hers.
Family overwhelms me quite a bit. You know, worry or stress around family side of things, that does overwhelm me quite a bit.
That is outrageous, Camilla replied sharply. I have never bullied Catherine. Everything I've requested was for the monarchy. William's restraint snapped. You made my wife cry over something that marked one of the most meaningful days of her life, and you used my grandmother's memory to justify it. That is manipulation. Plain and simple. Her cheeks flushed. Your grandmother would have understood these jewels exist to serve the crown, not sentiment. His voice dropped to something cold and cutting. That tiara was not crown property. It was a personal gift. She chose it for Catherine, not for anyone else to parade. The air in the room turned sharp. Camilla accused him of letting emotion cloud duty. William countered with each quiet instance staff had revealed, every small surrender Catherine had made. Finally, Camilla straightened. I am queen. My precedence is clear. William's reply landed like ice. You are my father's wife, but you will never have the right to mistreat mine. Even behind closed doors, raised voices carried. Staff waiting outside caught fragments of the clash. Clarence's house felt the tremor of it, a confrontation that could not be quietly erased. By afternoon, the palace grapevine was on fire. Competing versions of the clash spread fast. Some swore William had shouted about betrayal. Others claimed Camilla had leaned hard on her title as queen with sharp authority. The only clear truth? The household was split, and tension curled through every corridor like smoke. King Charles received a carefully worded report from his private secretary. Even softened, it carried weight. He now stood between his heir and his wife, both certain they were right, neither willing to bend. It was not just a family disagreement anymore. It was a fault line running through the monarchy itself. Catherine withdrew quietly to her apartments, guilt pressing on her shoulders. She had never wanted drama. She had tried to keep peace, yet her compliance had sparked one of the sharpest conflicts the family had faced in years. Lady Susan remained close, rescheduling appearances and offering steady support over tea. I feel I've divided everyone, Catherine admitted softly. You are not responsible for other people's choices, Susan replied firmly. William defended you as any devoted husband should. Across the palace, Camilla gathered her confidants, framing the confrontation as an overreaction from a son unwilling to respect her position. In her version, she was the dutiful queen, unfairly criticized for carrying out her role. The narrative was being shaped in real time. Outside the palace walls, the press sensed something was off. Royal correspondents picked up on subtle clues, canceled joint appearances, stiff official statements, carefully staged smiles that looked forced. Whispers turned into speculation. Speculation turned into headlines. Princess Anne stepped in, ever pragmatic. In private, she urged William to tread carefully. Public clashes will only strengthen her position, she warned. You risk looking reckless. William's response was blunt. She pressured my wife into giving up her wedding gift. How exactly was I meant to respond? Anne had no easy answer. She met equal resistance from Camilla, who dismissed William's anger as unnecessary dramatics. Neither side budged an inch. Meanwhile, the tiara still had not returned. Official portraits, cataloging, photography. The delays stacked up. Its absence felt symbolic. Catherine could not even wear the matching sapphire earrings. The deep blue reminded her of everything that had unfolded. Even routine palace tasks grew tense. Scheduling receptions, approving wardrobe choices, drafting speeches. Every decision felt loaded, as if it might signal loyalty to one side or the other. Meetings became quiet battlegrounds where neutrality was survival. The air felt charged, waiting for a spark. That spark came when King Charles summoned William and Camilla to Buckingham Palace for what he called a family discussion. Everyone knew it was far more than that. The fallout from the tiara dispute had reached the crown itself. They met in the Regency room, gilded and intimate, chosen to soften the weight of what hung in the air. Charles positioned himself between his son and his wife. Fatigue lined his face, but resolve held firm. He understood the monarchy's image depended on unity, yet the wounds here were personal. We cannot continue with this level of discord, Charles began, voice heavy with both fatherly concern and sovereign authority. The institution we serve is larger than any one of us. Our disagreements must never undermine our duties. William came ready. He opened his folder and laid out the facts. Calm, sharp, impossible to ignore. No raised voice this time, just clarity. He outlined the pattern. Over the past 18 months, Catherine had been asked more than once to hand over personal items under the banner of duty. It wasn't random. It wasn't isolated. It was consistent. The room went still. This pattern has left Catherine feeling powerless to protect what is hers, William said steadily. The tiara was simply the most public example. It cannot continue. Camilla answered smoothly, leaning on her title in the language of diplomacy. She spoke of image, of tradition, of service to the crown. But before she could fully take control of the narrative, King Charles stepped in. The sapphire tiara was a personal wedding gift from my mother to Catherine, he said plainly. It is not crown property. Treating it as shared without clear consent was inappropriate. The shift in the room was instant. William didn't smile, but the validation was clear. Camilla's expression tightened. We will make this clear going forward, Charles continued. Personal gifts remain private unless the owner chooses otherwise. William gave a small nod, then added one final point. Catherine deserves acknowledgement for the distress this caused. A tense pause followed. Finally, Camilla spoke, her tone controlled. I regret that Catherine was distressed by my request. It was not my intention to upset her. I will respect the boundaries agreed upon. It wasn't warm, it wasn't heartfelt, but it was on record. The matter was closed swiftly. The priority was stability. That same afternoon, the tiara was returned to Catherine's care. She accepted it with grace, though the situation had changed how it felt. The memory remained, but now it carried a lesson. Publicly, unity was restored. Engagements resumed. Smiles returned. Statements were polished and precise. To the world, the storm had passed. Privately, lines had been drawn. William had made it clear that Catherine would not quietly absorb pressure again. Staff noticed the difference. There was a new understanding in the air. Subtle, but solid. Catherine was no longer standing alone. The Japanese state dinner became more than a diplomatic event. It marked a turning point, a reminder that even in centuries-old institutions, personal boundaries still matter. Protocol may shape the stage, but loyalty shapes the future. For Catherine, it was a hard lesson about royal life, how easily personal meaning can collide with public expectation. But with William standing firm, that vulnerability transformed into strength. Now it's your turn. What do you think about how this was handled? Was it tradition, or did it go too far? Share your thoughts below. And if you're following this story, make sure to like, subscribe, and check out the next video on your screen for more insights into the moments that shaped the monarchy.